Today we have Louis here. Louis, I was just explaining to everyone that you are currently a first year studying physics at Merton College, Oxford. And so for anybody who isn't currently aware of the series that we're running, I'm Phil, I'm from EasyA, I'm a law grad from Cambridge, and we're running this series really just to demystify the whole Oxbridge applications process. So that's sort of enough on me, and I'll hand over to Louis to introduce himself. Louis, can you just give everybody a short introduction to yourself, sort of what you're studying, and sort of, yeah, a little bit more about your journey into Oxford?
Yeah, so I sort of live in East Sussex, and I came to Oxford from a non-selective comprehensive state school, and obviously studying physics at the moment. Study at the university is a very interesting subject, and hopefully we'll be able to tell you more about the application process and what it's like to study.
Perfect. Yeah, and if anybody has any questions along the way, just feel free to pop them in the comments, and we'll be able to see them as they come up. We'll be able to answer them live as well. So we're very lucky to have Louis here. We'll be able to answer them sort of just as they come up. So just pop them in the comments. But I've got sort of my first question, which is, I do like to ask about weird traditions at Oxford, because it's, how old is it? It's like 800 years old. I think Oxford is slightly older than Cambridge, right?
I think if memory serves, I may be completely wrong. It might be, I think Merton College in particular, where I go, is 750 years old.
750.
Might be, but,
So that provides a lot of time for these traditions to grow. And on the last Instagram live we had, somebody mentioned basically the Merton time ceremony, where I think when the clocks change, everybody just like walks back for an hour. Did you get to participate in that this year or not?
I did. It was a slightly altered format due to COVID. They disallowed us to use the traditional. Well, I say traditional. It is a 40-year-old tradition that was invented by some physics students to commemorate the plot. I forget how they word it, but I think it is something along the lines of preserve the space-time continuum every time the clocks go backwards. And what we do for an hour, the hour the clocks have gone back, is we drink port and link arms and go backwards round the. This year it was the Radcliffe camera, but in previous years it's traditionally the Mod quad, the sort of oldest quad in. I think it might be the world. But again, I definitely should know more about my college, but yeah. Definitely one of the oldest parts of Oxford.
Well, that's super. Is it the oldest college?
It is. Some people at college will tell you it isn't, but in fact it is.
Yeah.
Merton is the oldest college.
So there we can see a little bit of the rivalry that exists between the colleges.
Yeah, I think it was so long ago that it's not actually been recorded well enough to know whether we are the oldest or not. But of course we are, because that is the college I'm at, and we will say anything that makes us more prestigious.
Super. So we have a comment in the chat that just came up, and yeah, I guess you are literally the perfect person to ask about this. So it is, what's the best way for a GCSE student to revise physics? And this may relate to another question that we got from one of the polls, which was, how do you remember formulae? So I guess just first off though, generally, what's the best way for a GCSE student to revise for physics from a physics mastermind?
Right. So I would say definitely the best way is past questions. And the more of them that you can do, the better, because there's no real substitute for it. You get to know how the style of questions is going to be in the actual exams, so you're not going to be surprised by anything. And also it just helps you, if there's a question that you don't know, you think, oh, what's this all about? then you can go back to your textbook and go, oh, okay, now I understand it, and then learn from that. So it really helps fill in the gaps. But sometimes that's not the best first step. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So maybe just there are websites as well. I think Seneca Learning, I think, was one that I used a lot while I was revising GCSE Physics, and that's just very helpful for knowledge recall and stuff. And I think it's free. So it was free definitely at the time that I was using it. But yeah, I recommend that. That was very good.
Yeah. I think one question that often pops up is, I always say myself as well, past papers are the way to go. And then a common reply to that is, but what happens if you don't know anything? Like, is past papers the best step?
I guess if you absolutely know nothing, then probably. Good question. You see, I was always the space repetition of trying to learn something. So just try and focus on, I don't know, topic 1, let's say. And so you're doing topic 1, but don't just do topic 1. Okay, now tomorrow I'm going to do topic 2, then I'm going to do topic 3. What you've really got to do is let's do a bit of topic 1, and then maybe tomorrow I might write down everything that I can remember about topic 1. And then maybe a week after that, I might write everything I can write down, everything I can remember, and then check back again. And that sort of, is just better for you because it's a much better way of learning something and you'll remember it for much longer than cramming. And I have before crammed before exams, and as anyone who is crammed before exams will know, 2 weeks after you have crammed for the exams, you will have forgotten everything. And then if you do any further studies, you're not remember. So it's a much more enlightening process as well doing that, because it's just you feel like you're actually learning things as opposed to just trying to get a good grade in an exam. Yeah, I think that's the advice I go for.
Before we come on to the next comment from Fatima, what would you say is sort of the best way to explain spaced repetition to somebody who hasn't really come across that term before?
Yeah, so I think there are visual ways of doing it, as in people try and space it out in I think one day, so learn a concept.
Yeah.
And then a day after that, you come back to the concept and try and recall as much as you can. And it's important that you don't just look over the units again. You try and actively recall whatever you have learned.
Right.
And then check again that everything you've got. And then a week after that, you want to do it again. So you're gradually increasing the length of time that you're leaving between the gaps in your revision. And that way, your brain, there's a whole load of science on it, but essentially, it helps with your long-term memory. It helps turn it from short-term into long-term memory. And basically, so you go from that week-long, let's say, to a month, and then 3 months, depending on what you're advising for. I don't know how far ahead you want to start your revision. If it was like my degree levels, then let's say I want to do.
Yeah.
2 months after that, but it's a very good way of making sure that you don't end up just cramming and leaving everything to the last second, and which I'm also guilty of, but is not very helpful.
Wise words, definitely wise words. Yeah. I mean, so I think there are basically 2 elements there. Like, one is active recall, which is actually actively recalling it rather than just reading the textbook, and then spaced repetition, which is doing that process and doing it over not just like 1 or 2 days and then moving on to the next thing. It's actually sort of doing it spaced repetition, so doing it over a couple of days consistently. And coming on to Fatima's comment then, and you might have some personal tips for this, because I suppose there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer to this, and it's probably subjective, but she's saying, I wanted to add that with maths exams at home, I'm getting 50 plus on papers, but in the actual exams, I'm only getting 33. And I don't know if it's because of panic or I guess or something else. So, what I guess this is something that a lot of us have faced in the past. I mean, for me, if it is panic, I guess one thing that this seems to be to me is sort of about exam technique, maybe timing, and maybe maybe panic is one thing as well. But yeah, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on it, Louis.
Yeah, so I think it's very important not to be disheartened. Like, no matter what, you will have bad exams, and even if you aren't right now, at some point in the future, you will hit a point where you and it doesn't really make sense. But as to specifically doing, I guess if I don't know if you're doing this, but trying to do it to time maybe, and if that's not the maybe say to get the speed of the exam right. I don't know if that's the specific case or not. But one of the things one tip I would give is try and do as much as you can at a time, and then maybe change to a different coloured pen or whatever you want to do, and just try and finish every question in an exam. So that way you get the most out of the paper, even if you haven't got the timing right, you need to speed up a bit. And because I think in my end of beginning of second term exams, that happened, and I just completely ran out of time and ended up not doing very well, even though I knew a lot of the concepts.
Yeah.
And there were things I could answer that I ran out of time to answer. And I think it's very important to maybe my advice would be to highlight where, try and find where the mistakes are coming. Is it time pressure? Are you panicking during the exam? Do you need some way of dealing with the panic and thinking through if I do get panicked in exam, what am I going to do? How do I relax? I don't know. I think it really depends on what happens. And I don't know if I can give specific advice in regards to that. I think if you know what's going on, then you need to try and just isolate that one thing and not getting panicked about I'm doing badly in the code. Try and think about it in a logical way. Oh, how can I use this to improve?
Yeah, no, that's really great. And Fatima, if you do sort of want to pick up on that, just leave your sort of reply in the comments, and sort of I'm sure Lou will be happy sort of in a couple of minutes to come back to it. I guess similar to that topic, one question we had in the poll that went up earlier today was tips for remembering the formulae in the exam. And so maybe that's one where there is a little bit more of a concrete tip, where you can just say sort of, this is what I did. Yeah, over to you, Lee. What would you say is the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I think the thing that I did because it was maybe going by topic and thinking what equations are there in this topic that I need to know. But you naturally pick it up doing exam preparation. But anything that isn't picked up, I would just go for by topic and just go, right, what sorts of, I know there's some sort of thing to do with electricity. What is the actual law? And sometimes it's helpful to understand where this is coming in where. If you can understand, like, obviously sometimes you just need to know a formula, but if you can gain a deeper understanding of why that is, it's not always possible, but why that formula works, and get a sort of intuitive understanding of what's actually going on, and not just big numbers into a formula. going, oh, that is the electric field, that goes there, and I'll rearrange the equation. If you can get an intuitive understanding, then that's sometimes easier, but sometimes it's not. It very much depends on what sort of. I try and again do as much as active recall as possible and go magnetism. What equations are there on magnetism? And then just keep doing that until you can regurgitate all of the ones that you know and trying to break them up a bit.
Did you find it useful to make flashcards? Because actually, I didn't make any flashcards. I don't think I never made flashcards for revision. But I know that some people really swear by them and are like, this is how you revise. You make these flashcards. And it looks cool. And you like feel like you're getting somewhere as well. Sort of when you do a lot of, make a lot of flashcards. But I could see you shaking your head when you were talking about these flashcards. So what did you do?
Flashcards, I didn't actually go for flashcards for any of the physics or math subjects, and however, it really depends on what you're going for. I think you need to really target what you're revising to the method of revision you're using. So, for instance, German, I used almost exclusively flashcards. At the end of that, had pages on Quizlet, which is just a flashcard making site, and just went through every single topic, and I would swear by them. However, for maths and physics, I don't particularly think they're as useful. Perhaps for memorizing the equations. But I really think that trying to do physics and maths is the best way of revising it. Better than flashcards. But yeah, some people, I don't know, maybe just try it out for yourself, and if it's not, I don't know, if it works, then it works. Whatever, to each his own, I suppose. But personally, they haven't really been a thing for me. For those subjects.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose that just some people say that, just the process of writing it down helps. But I just found myself that sometimes making flashcards and the sort of notes isn't necessarily the most efficient way of doing it. And I've just preferred to, as you said, do past papers, because then you're sort of literally just getting exactly what you need to know, and you get used to the style as well. So I know that you're studying physics at Oxford, and at Cambridge, this might sound odd, but you can't actually study physics per se. You can study sort of physnatsky, which is physical natural sciences, or natural sciences with the sort of the physical element of natural sciences. So could you just maybe give us a 1 minute summary of like what the difference is between physics at Cambridge, physics at Oxford, and what it was like applying to Oxford, and maybe actually why you actually chose Oxford over Cambridge. I went to Cambridge, so no offense if you think Oxford is just better, but was there something about the course maybe? So I guess maybe the first part first. I know I've thrown a couple of questions at you there.
Yeah, no. So ultimately, that was the thing that made me decide between Oxford and Cambridge, because usually people really struggle because, to be honest, the courses are very similar. The structure of teaching is very similar. They're both beautiful places in cities that have small colleges in a bigger university. But the structure of a physics degree at Oxford is you will study exclusively physics. You have to do a lot of mathematics as well, but that's just because physics is mathematics, and I think about 50% of my first year has just been pure maths, but that I will be lately using in physics. But so the difference is that at Cambridge you do natural sciences. So what happens is you end up sort of choosing some elements of different sciences. So for instance, I think chemistry, physics, I think computer science just got taken off, but biology, maths, and then but you choose, I think, 3 of them. And it ended up that I would have to take, I think it was material sciences, and I just wasn't particularly interested in I was more interested in just going for physics because I knew that was what I liked, and I really wanted to pursue that further. And I would say really have a look at the course structure and course summaries on Cambridge and Oxford's website, and see which one looks more appealing to you, because they are actually, and this is quite unique in the sciences, very different courses. Yeah, it basically depends on whether you are, well, if you, one argument for going to Cambridge is if you're not very sure what you want to do, you like physics but you also like chemistry, maybe do that. And then if you're pretty sure you want to do physics, then maybe Oxford might be the way to go.
Yeah.
It's personal choice. There's no right answer, but they're just very different courses.
So I guess final question: what's better, Oxford or Cambridge?
Well, I go to Oxford, so I have to say Oxford by tradition. But in all honesty, they are two very similar unis. There are two unis which are very different from every other uni in the country and in the world. And I would just go to as many events as you can. I mean, I suppose they're not really on this year, but the many virtual ones, and also just kind of try and get a feel for the place and see if there's one that you feel more attracted to. But I wouldn't be very worried if oh, do I go to Oxford? Do I go to Cambridge? This is going to ruin my life if I pick incorrectly. I think no matter which uni you go to, you will be going to the best uni, because everyone always says they go to the best. If you ask anyone from Oxford or Cambridge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess that's definitely the right way to think about it. I mean, I think I would say that Cambridge is the best. You'd say that Oxford is the best, and I suppose it's sort of just down to which one you actually went to. Same as the colleges, actually. I think colleges sort of have their own sort of turf wars. Even when you're there, it doesn't stop. So if you're at Merton, you probably have. I saw sort of you were sort of saying Merton's the oldest, whereas was it University College claimed to be the oldest as well. So you've got a little bit of war there as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's the inter-college. There's the same thing actually for Oxford and Cambridge and choosing a college. Often, you will enjoy whatever college you end up at, and there are some subtle differences between the colleges. Some offer more accommodation, some offer bursaries for different things, but on the whole, you will get a good experience no matter really where you are, and you can make friends outside of your college. There are, especially, I mean, it won't be such a thing. It's not really been such a thing for me, because the first term it was a lot of quarantine and then lockdown, and the second time I wasn't even there. So I've been desperate to socialise with a lot of people and haven't really had the chance. But from what I've heard of older years, you can very much, especially people within your subject, and sort of just meet everyone from different colleges. And it's more of a friendly rivalry than a...
Exactly. I mean, you're not actually going to be enemies of the person at the college next door, just in the same way as, I guess, we're not deadly enemies, are we, Louis?
No, absolutely not.
Perfect. No, well, thank you very much for coming on today, Louis. I mean, that's been extremely helpful. I think probably my key takeaway has actually been your tips for getting through the GCSEs, GCSE Physics. I know we didn't sort of touch on A-level at all, but I definitely do agree that past papers is the way forward. And I like your sort of the emphasis you put on actually sort of trying to put it into context, and just almost trying to work at it from first principles so that you know exactly what the formula is used for in the exam. I think that's probably something that I would sort of advise anybody to do as well. I mean, even whatever subject you're doing. So my background is in law, and really putting things into context just really helps. So I think that's something that could probably be applied across the board in different subjects as well. And sort of final thing to say is, yeah, Louis was coming with UniReach via UniReach, with whom we are collaborating on this project and this series. And what we do also have is a waiting list. If you want to sign up to get mentoring from these amazing undergrads, such as Louis, you can just sign up via the form that's in both of our bios. And if you sign up there, leave your email, and we'll be able to match you with somebody who can help. And so, Louis, I believe you are a mentor with them. So, you know, somebody who's signing up could potentially get you if they're thinking of applying for physics.
I don't think I am at the moment because
not yet.
It was my friend who reached out to me, but I may join in the future. I'm unsure at the moment, but we'll see how much time I've got.
Super. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, thank you very much for your time today, Louis. And for anybody else who's watching sort of the recording or live, we are hosting these every evening at 10 o'clock. So make sure to tune into the next one where we have an Oxford medic who's also from Merton College. So we'll see you there. See you, Louis.
Bye. See you.
Bye.